Hello everybody and welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown channel. Today we are here to cover Andoni Iraola to Liverpool. Now it is confirmed by Fabrizio Romano, who's given the here we go on him to Liverpool. And yeah, it's been a pretty turbulent couple of days for Liverpool in terms of sacking coming at a pretty weird, time. And now it seems like they've gone straight for Iraola. There's been no second guessing. I don't really think there's been any other managerial candidates really, tipped higher than him. So we're gonna give our best analysis on him to Liverpool, give you all the detail, the tactical stuff, and go very much in depth today. Let's talk about Andoni Iraola, a very interesting appointment and one that's had a lot of positives, a lot of negatives thrown at it. And I want to run through sort of everything to do with both sides of the coin. And Andoni Iraola is pound for pound one of the best managers in the Premier League, over the last 3 years. He has took Bournemouth, developed them each year, has moulded that team with, I think, the third lowest wage bill in the division. He's lost integral pieces. I'm talking about Huijsen, Solanke, Zabanya, Kerkez, Semenyo. He's lost so many pieces and they've just kept getting better, Bournemouth. And they're a team that under Andoni Iraola who have just become more connected with his ideas throughout the years. And I think that's a very, very key aspect. Whenever you listen to Iraola talk about the way his team presses, the way his team adapts to the opposition, he always caveats that with, we've had the time now. The players are so aware of what we need to change to if we are to change. So Bournemouth's signature, selling point, their unique selling point with Andoni Iraola at the helm has been their out of possession intensity, the way they attack vertically, the way they can dominate games off the ball, often actually press in a diamond like this from the start. I'll show you a screenshot on your screen right now, actually, which is from the Fulham game, and you will oftentimes see this shape, and they use very zonal cues. So to talk about this, what it means is they can jump onto one side of the pitch. So if you can imagine that this is the back four of the opposition, when this comes up, they like to curve outside with the runs, and then they like to latch on like that, and they eventually try to lock off one side. And over the past few years, Iraola's Bournemouth, not Liverpool, Iraola's Bournemouth have become one of the best pressing teams in the entire of Europe, let alone in the Premier League. And we can see that with their challenge intensity as per Y-Scout, which is a stat that measures duels, tackles and interceptions per minute of opposition possession. They have the highest challenge intensity out of any team in the league. They win more defensive duels than any other team in the league per game, and they play more through balls than any other team during 90 minutes as well. But Liverpool fans have been very, very curious as to how does that map and scale towards a bigger club, one that has to take more risks on the ball, one that has to dominate games with control. For me, I want to caveat that just before we go on into actually, talking about my opinion on it. Liverpool are dreadful out of possession. They were dreadful under Arne Slot out of possession this season, in my opinion. Whether or not it's personnel, whether or not it's tactical instruction, they defended far too zonal. They were scared to go for the full throttle, and when they did, they looked better as a team. And they were too passive and too easy to play around. And especially at home, Arne Slot lost that gravitas of Liverpool in terms of, we made an entire video that got likes and some dislikes, obviously, from Liverpool fans, because I was really critical of the way Liverpool were falling with their intensity, with their passiveness. What they were shifting towards was not familiar to Liverpool fans. And when you start to try and make that change to more control and more, passiveness off and on the ball, and it's very hard to do if you're not getting results. And despite getting Champions League, which is another, thing to talk about with Iraola, they were not good enough. They were really poor. But Andoni Iraola, over the last 3 years at Bournemouth, has continually progressed and developed that team. And it's not only referenced in his possession in his first season, going from 44 to 48 to 50, but it's also referenced in this graphic on your screen right now, which shows pretty much every stat we can look at, the development. So in the dark red, that is where the stat has been the worst over the last 3 years. In the orange, that's where it's been either the middle of the pack or just below. And then the green is where them stats have gone better. So we can see that this season with Bournemouth, It is the best for goals, shots on target, shot conversion rate, expected goals, shots on target faced, passes. They've actually got the 4th joint passes in the Premier League this season for a team that you wouldn't, expect to be dominating possession. Pass accuracy, passing long percentage, that's actually come down. They were the 4th most direct team in his first and second season. Now they're the 9th in terms of passes going long percentage-wise. Their possession has got better. Their percentage of passes in opposition half has actually decreased, which is showing they are having more rest possession across the back 4. And I wanted to take a deeper look into this idea that how do they scale in terms of when they have the ball. Now, on your screen right now, I have got Bournemouth in the Premier League since the start of 23-24, which is when Andoni Iraola took over. We can see that they've had 24 games with 55% or more possession, where they have had 90 with 55 or less. And we can see that the win rate has actually come down by 9%. So in theory, they are picking up less results when they have more of the ball. That is fact. They are picking up less wins. Their points per game is down. Their goals per game is down, but their shots are up by a mile. Their touches in the opposition box per game are up by a mile. Their XG per game is better. Their XG against is way better. And their expected goal difference, which is all the games all in combined together for XG for and against, is almost 12 total expected goals difference better when they have the ball. So whilst they've been pretty poor when they actually do have a lot of the ball, I think they've won one game this season where they've had more than 54% possession, and I think they've drawn about 10 of them. One of them draws that I watched was a Burnley away game where in the first 15 minutes they created countless opportunities, not just through, transitional stuff, but really fluid and natural ideas on the ball as to what they're doing week in, week out in terms of actually pinning back a team. And I wanted to watch a game against Burnley because that's the type of team you will expect to play a low block against Liverpool. We've seen it earlier on this season. Liverpool snatched it right at the death of a penalty. And I wanted to see how they looked. They looked brilliant. And I'm not going to say that I've watched all 24 of Iraola's games where they've had 55% or more possession. But I think the control element will come with years and with time under his belt. I think next season is completely about laying the foundations of intensity, desire, and he often gets thrown around with this chaotic ball, this chaos ball. We can see, obviously, in that stat that I referenced before, they've got the most direct attacks in the Premier League this season. And I think that's what Liverpool lack. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot that Liverpool need in the market to actually hone in on these ideas. They need, if I just put this back into sort of a 4-3-3 that you'll probably see, or a 4-2-3-1, Liverpool need a midfielder who can be an accelerator pedal, who can snap lines, who can be mobile in there. I'm going to go on to talk about the importance of a mobile midfielder for Liverpool. This sort of player can be an Adam Wharton, but then they also need that Tyler Adams type of player, someone who's really good out of possession, a bit of an energy bunny, can set the pace, can cover Wharton's legs, because I do believe Wharton has a lot of issues off the ball like this. Someone like a Lamine Kamara, so I think they need potentially 2 in there. But then I look at the wide players. Rio Ngamoa is perfect. Ekitike, Isaac. I know Ekitike is out for a little bit, but that'll be okay up front. Right wing definitely needs a player here. So you're looking at potentially having a completely different sort of front 5 to work with at Liverpool. I also think centre-back depth is needed. They need to replace Kanate with an aggressive centre-back who can step in. We covered Jeremy Jacquet on the channel. I think he could be one of the best Premier League centre-halves in the next few years. I think he's wicked. Right back, Conor Bradley, too injury prone. Jeremy Frimpong. How does that work if he's, coming up and down in these direct moments? But yeah, I want to now just talk to you about what does Iraola do at Bournemouth that makes them so special? And if you remember, quite a long time ago, Pep Guardiola made a comment to, I think, The Guardian, I think it was. And he was saying that the modern way to play football is like your Bournemouths and your Brightons, not like the way Pep Guardiola plays. And I think we are entering a phase. I mean, we've all just watched the Champions League final, of course. We've all just watched the last stint in the Premier League. I think we're entering a phase where, yes, you need possession to dominate games, and you always need the ball to control games, and you always need the ball to win points on a wider scale, because having the ball is like defending. We all know that, and it limits the amount of chances on your goal as long as you're okay on the ball. But I think you're still seeing elements of, yes, Iraola's Bournemouth actually want the ball. They just have a different intent when it's on the ball. And it's similar to that of Jurgen Klopp's in the first season. I'm not comparing it, but their verticality on the ball, when they lose the ball, that's their playmaker. Their chaos is their playmaker. And going from that to Arne Slot will be an incredibly difficult, transition, don't get me wrong. But you're probably going to look at a whole new spine for Liverpool. So I've got an example on your screen right now, and I'm going to talk to you about building through teams with flexibility and mobility in the centre. So we can see that Bournemouth have reset the play here on 38 minutes against Manchester City. Manchester City are using that 4-4-2 zonal block. A lot of teams use this in the Premier League. It's a good cross-reference example if we're talking about can he coach against a really good team. The ball comes back to the goalkeeper and he rolls it into Alex Scott. Alex Scott then turns on the ball, passes it direct, vertical line. The midfielders are stood like this on the opposition's, on the edge of their own box. They are stood vertical. Alex Scott taps it into Tyler Adams. Alex Scott then spins off the shoulder with mobility. He comes out of the shadow, pulls in front behind the line. He then toe pokes it through to Krupe, who's dropped down from this position here. So he toe pokes it into Krupe. He then turns on the ball, and what have we got? We've got a left winger who's cutting inside and Truffert who's pushing the depth down this side. I'm going to go on loads into talking about the depth and the wing backs and stuff, but Truffert then runs to the line, gets in behind City's higher block, squares it and knocks it back across the edge of the box. Who's there? It's Krupe to get it, and it's a wonderful finish. And this goal, in theory, wins Arsenal the Premier League. So the ideas about Bournemouth, for me, are yes, they do like chaos, they do like transitions, but vertical football is not chaotic football, in my opinion. It's just a different way of attacking. It's from attacking space. And Iraola's Bournemouth are a team who attack space so well. I mean, we all watched that Manchester City game. They want to hit the bigger spaces. I've made this point so much when I'm talking about Michael Carrick's Man United. Where are you going to hurt teams? When the space is bigger behind the opposition's back line. So whether or not that's a counter-attack, but as we've just seen, when building out from the back, you can still hit bigger space. That doesn't have to come with a long ball into the number 9 and a flick on straight away. It can come from get your centre-half split, put one inside, and then can we have these combinations down the sides like this, like that, where we can pop it off to the sides and then create third-man runs to get in behind and push depth. I'm going to show you a lot of examples of Bournemouth and how they manage to use rotations out wide, depth from fullbacks, pacing behind, and just really, really well rehearsed and coached patterns of play. And this is what I'm saying about Iraola's Bournemouth. Managers don't get a lot of time at clubs nowadays, but he's had 3 years there and their ideas are so clear. There's often times where I'm watching them and Truffert, Tyler Adams, Truffert's only just come in the summer. He's not thinking twice about where the space is, what run to make, what pass to play. So again, I'm talking here. I've got another example, fast build-up play from the goalkeeper. Again, what have we got on the screenshot? Both centre-halves are split. Exactly how you would see in Arsenal or Manchester City. The keeper's then brought it out from the back. Diakite, we can see now Ryan Christie's actually sending the ball through. You can see him pointing down the line. Diakite plays that ball. It's on Semenyo's back, so he's got pressure on his back. But look at Wharton's reaction. He jumps, and then we're laying that off to the third man in this instance, which is Tyler Adams. Puts it back into Tyler Adams, and just with this first touch pass from Tyler Adams, there's next to no scanning in this move. Everything's one touch through the lines, breaking stuff up. Bounces it off to Tyler Adams. It goes into Marcus Tavernier. Comes down the side from Truffert. Lays it off to Ben Doak, who's holding that width. And then what have we got here against Chris Richards and Daniel Munoz? We've got that three-man triangle down the side like this, taking advantage of two players like that. And that is only there because Truffert makes this deep run to create that 3v2. They're arriving deep. They're arriving into the space. They're doing it fast. They're doing it from deeper starting positions. Ben Doak plays a lovely slip ball down into Tavernier. He dinks it, and this is a goal from Ryan Christie, who, as we just said, was the one conducting the play right at the beginning. So Bournemouth's ability to go from back to front, but it's not, when people talk about chaotic football, it's not like hanging a ball up into the air. Like, that's not, for me, what I associate this Bournemouth team with doing. They're not just whipping it into the channels for a Semenyo. In my opinion, they have shown such clear signs of coached, rehearsed, fast, vertical play. Like, not transitional. A direct attack, just for people, when I say the first in direct attacks, that's an attack that's gone from their own third to the opposition's third, ended in a shot in less than 10 passes. That's what a direct attack is. Direct has a connotation in your mind of they're just launching it into a big man up front and they're just knocking it down and they're playing. That's not what Bournemouth do. So when people often reference this element of chaotic football from Bournemouth, yes, it can be basketball-like, but the levels in this Bournemouth team are insane. And that is why I can't stress enough that even though Arne Slot, in my opinion, probably deserved to go in the end in terms of the wider picture, this is what I'm saying now. There's a bit more of an emphasis needed to be placed on the entire club in terms of you need to rebuild the levels in that team from an energy standpoint. Alexis McAllister will suffer a lot in this. If it's going to translate the same way as Bournemouth, he's going to struggle in there. So they need to recruit right. They need to recruit direct wingers. I know Yandi Amande has been tipped to Liverpool. That's the type of player you want. Kirk has obviously worked with Andoni Iraola before. He will understand the arrivals from deep positions to push the line back, create these 3v2s. Now I want to show you what directness looks like from Bournemouth. And again, when I'm talking about this directness, because let's not forget, they've got Isak, they've got Ekitike, they've got Szoboszlai who will run all day. This is what it looks like when Bournemouth do decide to go long under man-to-man pressure. Every team does this, so do not be scared. Every team, when all the passes are locked off and it's at the keeper's feet, the best pass is long. So we can see here in this picture, Alex Scott's got the ball. And look at where Alex Scott's taking the ball in front of his back four like this. He's the base midfielder. Plays it back to Petrovic. Rolls his studs on the ball. This is in the FA Cup game against Newcastle, St James's Park. They're going to jump to man-to-man. We can see that right here. Petrovic goes long. And on the freeze frame I've got here where he's launching the ball, look at Alex Scott's reaction. He's already ran off his man who's followed him from man-to-man. So he's spun, gone off his blind side, got in behind him. Evanilson wins the knockdown. If I just show you this picture right here, after the knockdown is won, Alex Scott is lurking in the opposition's box. They've regained the ball high, and then this run from Evanilson, perfectly weighted pass down the line, splits it in, and then Alex Scott is the one to tap it in at the back post. He's only there because of his mobility and physicality and his ability to run and ability to go between each box. Liverpool need that, desperately need that in midfield. And I know they need a lot. I know they need a lot throughout the squad. And I was having a few conversations yesterday, and it was like, you almost forget how much Liverpool actually need. And off the summer they've just had, they need to do a lot. The higher ups need to do a lot. So again, I've got another example here talking about the double width. This is a really massive concept with Iraola. He's spoken about it a lot. And this is more of a counter-attacking situation on the last day at Nottingham Forest. And we can see when the width is, when the counter-attack comes in, the ball is played out wide. We can see straight away, Truffert, what is he doing? He's got his head up. He's looking straight down the line to run behind. Third man run from him. Nice little triangle out there, taking advantage of that 3v2. Truffert pushes the width, gets it in the opposition's box. And if you can see on this picture, I know Nottingham Forest have nothing to play for on the last day. Look how many Bournemouth players are in this picture in comparison to Forest players. Like, they have been drilled like so clearly. This ends up in a goal. They have been so clearly drilled in that physicality in terms of you've got to push depth. Now, I understand what people are saying when it comes down to if they're playing 3 games a week. Iraola, yes, he has never really handled that. And you oftentimes see at Bournemouth, they go on really long stints without wins. And it does feel like they burn out and stuff like that. I do really understand when Liverpool fans go, can he, coach that style 3 times a week? Can he? That's the grey area. We don't know that. Like, I can't sit here and confidently say yes he can or no he can't. And that's the issue. We don't know what it looks like. I've shown you sort of what they do on the ball when it's with the goalkeeper's feet. I've shown you how they can play through the lines direct. I've shown you why they look for them chaotic moments to attack the space. I've shown you the midfield setup and what's demanded of them in there, the forwards, what's demanded, the fullbacks, what's demanded. And all the adaptations that are to come are to do with, can he come into a team and make them more controlled? But in my opinion, when I look at Iraola's team, I don't want them to have more control, because sometimes when they do try and fire it through the midfield like this, and sometimes when they do try and hit the ball into Krupi from deep positions and the back line's high up against Bournemouth's press, sometimes when that second ball interaction happens here, Bournemouth regain it, there's jumps from the opposition, and then they look forward and they play. I don't think the days of, and I'm trying not to like just disregard possession. I know it's crucial, but I think the days of like 65% possession in a league season on average, they're just gone, in my opinion. And I think personally for me, I look at the players that Liverpool have got, and I think as long as they get wingers, they have like Isak, Ekitike, Szoboszlai, Wirtz, get a couple of wingers in, Rio Engamoa, Kirkes from deep runs, Frimpong even. I think you look at players who, in theory, do have like a little bit more, running capabilities when platformed all together. So, yeah, I'll show you one more example. This is a game against Newcastle, and this is a game in which I watched Bournemouth play Newcastle St James. I wanted to see how they coped with that man-to-man pressure, how they bounced off one another in terms of can he out-coach a man-to-man press as well. This is when Newcastle have sat in more deep zonally, and we can see Truffert on the ball. Truffert smacks it into Marcus Tavernier. We've got David Brooks, Truffert. Again, keep your eyes on the left back. Where is he moving to? He's ran off Jacob Murphy. They've rotated out wide. David Brooks has spotted that bit of space between both centre-half. Truffert has made the run in there. He receives it, gets it into Marcus Tavernier, and then Bournemouth score on this chance here, 84 minutes. The combinations down the outside are very, very crucial to what Bournemouth do, and it's very clear that Liverpool need connections, whether it coming from these three here, whether it comes from these three here. They need to build a team with connections and synergy. And right now, I understand loads of people saying that the squad doesn't look synchronised at all. It looks messy in there. So, yeah, and then I've got one last example before we wrap up. This is Iraola's bread and butter, okay? This is where he comes out as an elite coach, when he profiles as an elite coach. We've already mentioned how good they are in terms of pressing. I've already read all the stats out. We've done numerous amount of videos talking about Iraola's ideas off the ball, what makes them so good. This is something you will see a lot. You can imagine this is Liverpool against Arsenal in this example. You can imagine this is Liverpool against City in this example. They've gone away at the Emirates. It's 1-1. We can see here they're playing in that 4-4-2 zonal block. Gyökeres drops down from centre forward to receive this. James Hill follows him all the way through in the pressure. He forces a second ball. They latch onto the second ball. And then what do? We set it back to Truffert. He bounces it inside to Ryan Christie. And we're talking about these, everything in this move is one touch. Bang into Truffert, into Ryan Christie, back out to Tavernier. I mean, look at Mikel Arteta's reaction in this picture at 39:51. He has no idea how to stop it. It's chaotic, but it's so fast. It's so fast and controlled. And then they end up actually rattling the ball into Evan Nilsson, who makes a really nice run. And then he has a shot, and this is probably one of the best chances Bournemouth have in this game. But we can see that when they arrive into this final third on this picture here, they've got that 3v1 on the outside. They've got so much going for them in their attacks. And this is a team who's able to jump out of settled zonal block and to force that into man-to-man. That's something where I thought Arne Slot's Liverpool just didn't do enough. They didn't do it enough. And that's a trigger to set the press, to get it going. When I talk about a team coming up against you, if they're building up in a 4, Iraola's triggers and the cues of the pressure is so clear. It's so when that ball goes, that's a curved run. This latches out. if there'll be a base of midfield here like this, so the right striker will come like that, or one of the midfielders will come like that, and he'll go and stand in there, and they completely lock off the side. And Iraola has an obsession with the pressing game. I mean, I've got a quote here. This will actually be the last one before we wrap up, but I've got a quote here, and I completely forgot to read this out at the top of the video. But this is from Elphick, who's on the Bournemouth bench of Iraola. He said, "Only once did we come away from the pressing game he demands, and that was in a heavy defeat to Manchester City away. And I'll never forget the gaffer's reaction. We changed a little bit the shape, stepped off a couple of yards, and I remember being sat next to him and he was so uncomfortable. Andoni ripped it up at half-time and he told the players to go man-to-man and be super aggressive instead. Afterwards, he told me he'd never do that again and that I should never let him do that again either. A few days later, we beat Newcastle United 2-0, playing an unbelievably aggressive style, and it just felt beautiful. That was us, and it was the moment we went bang. Our play went to a new level after that." That's a manager who's rooted in his ideas. And for me, that sounds like Liverpool. And like, that's what I associate Liverpool with. And you've got to get that buy-in so early, because if Anfield gets rocking on that pressing game again, you're already looking at a really hard place to go. And you're already looking at a minimum points tally there, just simply from the intensity that's instilled by the coach, that's put into the game plan, that's then put into the stadium, that's then put in the fans, and then it gets a little bit more momentum going. And for me, that is the ceiling of what Liverpool could do if they get the recruitment right. The ceiling of what they could do is incredibly high in terms of he could turn them into the best pressing team in the world with the most ferocious deep attacks, some of the best combination play in the centre, some of the best forwards in the world, with the hardest working midfield, and with athletic monsters in the back line like Xhaka, VVD. But there's so much that needs to be done in the market to make that work, and there's so much that needs to be worked on from an Iraola standpoint to make that work long term. So yeah, I really do understand the struggles behind a lot of Liverpool fans saying that there's loads of grey areas with this. I do understand it. But personally for me, and the injuries, we've not mentioned the injuries, but there are injuries like every other club in terms of when teams press. But that feels more to me like Liverpool. And that's what I'll say. I would say get excited for it because he laid the foundations so early at Vallecano and Bournemouth. And everyone knew what their teams looked like at the start. It took him a few weeks to get it going at Bournemouth in the first year. So don't be surprised if it happens again. But as you just read in the quote there, when it clicks and it looks incredible. So that for me is where I get excited by the aspect of Iraola being at a top club. So, yeah, I'd get excited. I feel like it's a Liverpool appointment. I said this a few weeks ago in terms of if they wanted to get that buy-in back from the fans, if they wanted to get that aggressiveness, that tenacity back in the team, that togetherness, then this is the one. And, yeah, I think it could be a really good appointment if the right deals are made in the summer. So, yeah. Thank you very, very much for watching this episode of the Overlap Breakdown. If you did enjoy, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the channel. And let us know how you think Andoni Iraola is going to get on now he's confirmed as Liverpool manager. And we will see you next time. Thank you.